Alrighty, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. I do have to check something just briefly. Okay, I apologize. I was wanting to check something at the beginning of the stream. Possibly could have gotten me copyrighted, but I believe I turned it off in time. That's we're gonna go ahead and dive right on into this. Let's see who's in our chat today. I'm a little bit rusty here, 2 days, and I'm already forgetting how to stream. Look at me. Indiana, Caleb, Caden, Maddox, Tanks, Johnny. Let's see, Livid, Sam, and everybody else who is in here who may not be chatting, or if I forgot to welcome you, or if you're just tuning in, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you in here. I'm just going to do a few double checks here, and we are good to go. Let's go and switch on over. I try to get you guys on over to this scene here around the 3-minute mark in the stream, so we're not staying at one screen for too long. So we're going to just go over the chances for severe weather today, tomorrow, as well as go over the overall pattern going throughout the rest of March and into early April. We'll also go over some other things as well. We'll just kind of go with the flow after we're done talking about these two severe threats. But I definitely want to talk about today's threat, tomorrow's threat, and then what we could see for the rest of March. So let's just dive right on into it. This is going to be the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for today. We do have a thunderstorm risk, obviously. That's what me and Lucky consider that as 0.5. More importantly, we do have a marginal and a slight risk. So we've got a level 1 and a level 2 risk for severe weather out here in portions of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. The main threat today is actually going to be the chance for some isolated large hail. Could see as large as 2-inch in diameter hail today, anywhere from just northeast of Tulsa, Oklahoma, all the way through Joplin and Springfield into south central Missouri. Also going to have the opportunity for damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour today. And we could see a tornado or two. Notice this. Look how far out I can go here. So this is normally like the view that the SPC has on their page. That is a small 2% chance for tornadoes, but it does encompass almost 1 million people there in northeastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri. So not a good setup for tornadoes. Just could see a spin-up tornado or two as those storms first fire. If we go over here to the HRRR, I will show you really quick exactly what we may be able to see here. So these storms will begin to fire around 9 p.m. Eastern in eastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas. The prime time for tornadoes tonight will be between 10 and 11 p.m. Eastern, probably on the southeastern side of this 2% risk for tornadoes. But generally, they're just outlining this 2% for the opportunity of these clustered storms here, wherever they may fire. So they're going to fire on the west side here and then make their way to the northeast side. So that will be where we have the greatest opportunity for a tornado or two today. Definitely not a high-end setup. Nothing like what we saw a week ago. So just really dealing with a brief spin-up tornado or two today. I did see that livid just simply because of your post. I haven't looked up there at all personally. But I do know that the Euro model shows the opportunity for a few tornadoes. I don't even know the time frame for that. I would assume, is it tomorrow up there? No, it's definitely not. It can't be tomorrow. There ain't even a general thunderstorm risk. I don't know what it is. I just saw 2 posts on Twitter about it. We do have a new GFS coming in, so we're going to kind of try to take our time here on these setups for severe weather today and tomorrow's. That might be it right there. I think I see it. Is it Wednesday? Yep, Wednesday. I just saw your chat too. I see that on the GFS. Yeah, that could definitely be a pretty good setup for severe weather out there in Western Oregon. I do see that. Western and Central Oregon. Well, I gotta be dead honest with you. I ain't gonna be keeping an eye on that. I was gonna say I'll keep an eye on it, but I ain't gonna be watching it. That will go in one ear, out the other. I'll try to remember to keep an eye on it, but I barely look up there. I mean, it has to be something extremely rare to get my attention up there. Now, day of, I'll probably talk about it, but lead up to it, I'm probably not going to pay very close attention to it. I'll try my best to remember. I'll try to remember to pay attention to it. It's just not an area that I look at often. You know, when I look at the GFS, I look at 2 things: 500 millibar precipitation type, and I always look in the central U.S. I look in this area here for any troughs on the GFS, and if I see none, well, then no YouTube videos, no streams for the rest of the year. If only we could go a whole year without severe weather. And then we go on into tomorrow's risk for severe storms. Now, I don't know if I was live when they expanded this. I don't think I did a live stream with their expansion, but they did have a slight risk. It used to go all the way up into, I think, almost into Kentucky, if not into Kentucky. So on their day 3 outlook, they have shrunk this down just a little bit. You can see in that slight risk area, that's a level 2 out of 5 in the yellow, 2 out of 5 there over Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi. Some of the same areas that saw severe weather last week. Thankfully, we're not even dealing remotely close to a magnitude of a severe threat like last week's. I mean, we've got a 5% chance for tornadoes, so it could still be a little impactful. We could still end up with a tornado or two, and I know I'm about to go on a limb here. I do think we could see a strong tornado being possible tomorrow. There's 2 locations that I'm going to keep an eye on for the opportunity of a strong tornado threat. If we pull this on out, keep an eye on the far northern side tomorrow. There's going to be an area of enhanced wind shear either in this area or a little bit more north than that. And I do think if we could get a semi-discrete storm as opposed to clustered, we just might have a opportunity for an isolated low-end strong tornado threat here. You can see the supercell composite definitely is present on that northern side. So I'm going to keep an eye on that for an isolated strong tornado threat tomorrow. And then one more thing out here, probably towards about 9 p.m. or so, 9 p.m. Eastern, I do think we could see some semi-discrete supercells that fire in this area. The main issue for a strong tornado threat is wind shear. But you can see here, we are probably going to end up with some semi-discrete storms. And if you look at your supercell composite, you definitely have some supercell composite that is present in this area. We'll go a little bit more in depth on it and figure out how much lower level wind shear we have. Matter of fact, I think I could look at that right now. Let me see. That's bulk shear. I like to look at helicity the most. I ain't seen it on here. Let's see. I guess we could just take a quick peek at bulk shear. Yeah, so that's about 23 knots. If I'm not mistaken, you want closer to 30 to 35, 0 to 1 kilometer bulk shear for a stronger threat for a tornado. So not exactly a great setup for tornadoes down here in the 5% risk. But storms will be more semi-discrete, which should allow for at least a better opportunity. And then up here where those supercell composites were higher, you can see that's closer to 40, 45. So if we can get any semi-discrete storms up here, they may pose that isolated strong tornado threat as long as they're semi-discrete. You can see about 500 to as high as 1,000 capes. So definitely, and this is surface-based. This is not most unstable. This is surface-based cape here. So definitely not the worst setup for severe weather in terms of just a more of a low-end threat, right? It's not a terrible, very conditional threat. So if you're a chaser, I don't know if this is something I chase. If this is what models keep looking like, I would probably not chase because of the time of day. We're looking at primary storms firing off around 7:30. And then 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock is your peak tornado activity, both out here in Kentucky, Tennessee, as well as out here in Mississippi. So I'm not sure if we'll be live for it. Of course, I have my race tomorrow. So NASCAR rarely does late night races. So I'll consider a live stream. I'll consider it. I don't want to make any promises, but I kind of want to stream it because if we don't, there's going to be a lot of inactivity. I don't see like a bunch to talk about outside of this event. I still want to give it some time before we go into the longer range here because our newest GFS is rendering in. So if we just go ahead, that's for 11 p.m. Eastern, by the way. Pull that all the way back. So damaging winds also going to be possible. They will probably end up being our primary threat. Widespread 60-mile-an-hour winds. Potentially some isolated wind gusts up to 70 will be possible. I wouldn't be all that surprised if we do see an enhanced risk for damaging winds. I think a 10 sig Tor is nearly unachievable unless we see some major wind shear uptrends for tomorrow, but I could see them potentially introducing an enhanced risk for damaging winds. If I had to guess where, I would say probably central, kind of west central Mississippi, northern Louisiana, right in here. I wouldn't be fully surprised if we see a 30% or 30 sig wind. It would probably be 30%. I don't think we've got the highest chance for significant wind gusts, especially significant wind gusts over 70. Those should be pretty difficult to achieve for thunderstorms tomorrow. Also could see some isolated, very large hail as well. Looking at potentially 2-inch in diameter hail for tomorrow with any embedded supercells that form inside of that MCS. And I think it's going to be more of a broken MCS. I do not think we're going to be dealing with a very strong line of damaging winds that is producing 60-mile-an-hour winds all the way from the northern tip of the marginal to the southwest tip. I think we're going to be seeing more of a broken line. So like, for instance, Tennessee, we may have a line, and then going into Mississippi, it may be more broken, and then it may start back up again and then be very broken towards Texas. So I think we're going to have more of a broken line and broken embedded cells that are going to be possible out here for tomorrow's risk for severe weather. So I think that will slightly increase the tornado threat. That's one of the reasons why they went 5%, is because we may have more semi-discrete to discrete storms inside the line, as opposed to just like a straight linear line going through the whole risk area. If that were the case, then they probably wouldn't have introduced that 5%. Let's see. Perfect 5 sig setup. Yeah, probably in Kentucky and Tennessee. It's a little tricky, though. From a chaser perspective, it's definitely tricky to figure out where to go, because you have this conditional strong tornado threat further north where there's better wind shear, but it may be more clustered and end up messy. Whereas further south, you have a more discrete to semi-discrete mode. However, you don't have nearly as much wind shear as that northern conditional threat. So a little bit tricky. It's the strong tornado threat's fully conditional tomorrow. It would take a near perfect scenario to end up seeing a strong tornado tomorrow. We would have to see a perfect semi-discrete supercell fire either in front of our line in Tennessee slash far south central Kentucky, or a completely discrete storm in Mississippi and Louisiana. And even then, in Louisiana, Mississippi, we may not have enough lower level wind shear to spin that up. So we'll see. Yeah, Reed's outlook was something. uh, he's been very I gotta put this in the right wording without potentially offending him here. He's been well, I'll just say aggressive. He's been extremely aggressive with his wording. His wording has been very aggressive and almost hypecast like. If you watched his video earlier today, he actually called for multiple super outbreaks being possible this year. That's not something you normally throw around lightly ever. It's very rare to hear anybody say that in the community, even the people who may clickbait and hype a bunch more. Typically, even those people aren't going to say super outbreaks possible. So a degreed PhD meteorologist like Reed throwing out words of saying his quote was super outbreaks. It was plural, implying more than one super outbreak possible this year. So I don't know. I don't know if he fully meant to say that or not. I feel like he did, because if he didn't, they would have just. It's not that difficult to just cut it out. You know, it takes 10 seconds to cut that out properly. I mean, when I first started, it would take me a lot longer to cut things out, but now I could do a good cut in 10 seconds. I think today will, not today, rather, not today. I think this year is going to feature the opportunity for more strong tornadoes. I think we'll have a better opportunity for strong tornadoes this year compared to, average. I think it's going to be more of a quality over quantity year. So there's going to be a few events that end up having that one crazy tornado that a chaser gets an absolute absurd shot of for multiple different events. For instance, March 14th we had that. March 15th we had that. The first two big events of the year. By the way, 3 EF4s. If you didn't tune into the last live stream, I mentioned that before. We've already passed 2023 in violent tornadoes. We've already passed 2023 in violent tornadoes and tied 2024. So it would not shock me if we end up with an above average violent tornado threat this year. But Reed thinks that the past weekend was a super outbreak. See, in my opinion, it was very close. It depends when you count it, but we have to go off of the Storm Prediction Center. If we counted the clock for 24 hours at 3 p.m. Eastern on the 14th, and then it ended near 3 p.m. Eastern on the 15th, then that may have been considered a super outbreak due to the violent tornadoes and how many EF2 plus tornadoes we saw. But we got to go off of the SPC's valid date, which is 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. That's when they start and stop a day. So within that time frame of 7 a.m. morning to 7 a.m. the next morning, you have to have met those super outbreaks requirements, which I believe it's a minimum of 100 tornadoes, being observed. And then you have to have multiple violent long track tornadoes, as well as 10 plus, maybe even more than that, EF2 plus tornadoes. 2024 had 4 violent tornadoes? Really? I was for sure it had 3. I'm gonna go check that. Dang. I wouldn't be surprised if I've forgotten. I mean, that year was just a full flash for me. Oh, yeah, right, because they upgraded the Elkhorn tornado. Duh. Yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot they upgraded that. You're right. Yes, you are correct. 4. Because I was gonna say, I remember the um was it the Greenfield one? The one in southwestern Iowa, rather. I remember the one in southwest Iowa, the Barnsdale tornado northwest of Tulsa, and then the Ardmore tornado as well. I remember those 3, and then I did forget about Elkhorn. How could I forget that tornado? Because it was literally the most memorable one. I just forgot that it was upgraded. So yeah, it's 1 behind 2024. Well, it was very close to Ardmore, Caden. It's like literally it's a couple like 10 plus right around there miles east of Ardmore. But yeah, from our 24-hour time frame, just to go to it. And this is using reports, so I have to go to the NWS here. Oh, this is going to be difficult. I don't have a site that could give us the exact number of tornadoes. So the reports that are filtered have 91 filtered reports. But there may have been more tornadoes added on to that. Because if you do the damage assessment toolkit, you can't just do a 24-hour time frame. But yeah, because see, this says like 5 tornadoes happen on March 14th. We know that ain't true. So it's difficult for me to get a 24-hour tally on it. Because see, right now I have the begin date on March 14th and the end date on March 14th. And like I said, it has like 5 tornadoes. And then if you put that from March 14th to the 15th, well, it counts both days. So I think we were probably near 90 or so tornadoes on the 14th. Dude, so many tornadoes. And then the 15th, I know, had just a slightly less amount tornadoes. Not by a whole lot, though. Maybe overall, Joshua. Maybe on the 14th and the 15th combined. Let's see. I don't know. This is one of the first times I'm actually researching it. I haven't really been able to do a recap on the threat till like literally today in the last live stream I did. Yeah, see, so from the 2 days, it was about 110 tornadoes observed. Are you ready for Texas tornadoes in a week? A week? Oh yeah, we got to go over that. Let's go ahead and go over that. Thanks for reminding me. Let's go over the long range models now. Not this. Yes, this is it. Zoom in 1. Perfect. Yeah, but personally, I don't consider an outbreak. I don't think there was enough tornadoes in a 24, or a super outbreak, rather. I don't consider it a super outbreak. I don't think there was enough tornadoes in a 24-hour time frame. I mean, shoot, March 31st, 2023 wasn't considered a super outbreak, and that had plenty more tornadoes, but also less violent tornadoes. I speak for all of us when we say we're ready for some planes action. Probably not going to get it this season. In June, we may have the surprise High Plains Insanity Day or 2, but I'm not expecting much planes action this year. I still think we're going to get a few events in this area, but overall it's going to be relatively below average. Yeah, but we're not going to get a good planes event, Caden. You've got a very sloppy setup planes event. Look at this. You've got, what? This is not a good signal. You've got a capped environment, a horrific high latitude trough with an embedded negative tilt shortwave, minimal forcing mechanism, terrible lapse rates, especially after 5 p.m., of course, as the sun goes down. Very low wind shear. You just got a crappy setup. I mean, shoot, even your lower level jet is only like 25 knots. I mean, if that's considered a plane setup, that's kind of crazy. I consider that a little appetizer for any of it. I mean, wait, that might not even be a severe risk. We may get a couple storms to fire on that day, but I don't even know if that's going to be a proper severe threat. Look at that. That's horrific. That's a horrific sounding I just pulled in front of those storms. 89 surface to 1 kilometer wind shear. That isn't even enough to... shoot, that couldn't even spin a bird or something, man. That's not going to do nothing. This is about as bad as it gets kinematic-wise. Zero, like literally zero veering, man. Horrific veering, horrific lower, mid-level, upper-level wind shear, horrific lapse rates. Okay, instability. F-tier hodograph. This is a sounding for the opportunity of some very small hail, maybe large hail when storms first fire, maybe some damaging winds, and possibly a spin-up tornado if you could get the absolute most pristine conditions out of whatever this is. Perhaps a tornado, maybe when things first go. See if we can get it when things first fire off. So that's when things are first firing in north central Oklahoma. This might be a Tor sounding. If we pull it a little bit more in front. I'm just not seeing a lot with it. It wouldn't surprise me if the SPC highlights a 15% risk for severe weather. Yeah, see, that's not as bad. You're still garbage on the lower level wind shear, but mid-levels improved, which in result improved your hodograph. Not terrible. 714 DK. Lapse rates, ow. In the plains, lapse rates, that is at... Okay, well, actually, is this... This says 0.3. Okay, I guess I did pull that pretty late. Okay, so those lapse rates wouldn't matter much because storms would already be... They would already be ongoing. Thanks to daytime heating. Now, they would matter in terms of a long-track tornado threat, but shoot. You ain't gonna get a long-track nothing with 79 lower-level wind shear. Most long-track thing you're gonna get out of this is a raindrop. A long-tracked raindrop possible. I mean, just not really a setup I'm interested in. And there's your ridiculous trough right there. Look at that sucker. Oof. Thing is insane. Absolutely crazy. Long-tracked breeze. Yep. Insane trough ejection right there, y'all. I've never seen something like it. Oh my goodness, look at that. You've got a 10 knot lower level jet. Oh my goodness. 10 to 20 knots. Jeez. That's ridiculous. Not even a rain shower. Not even a rain shower, y'all. There ain't even a rain shower in that main area. Not even a rain shower. And then you get some forcing going. You finally get something. You finally get something to fire once a short wave comes through at almost midnight. Yeah, just not something that I'm really interested in. Now, however, the Euro, now you got my interest. If the Euro is correct, I could see a slightly more substantial severe threat setting up. But right now, I'm not sure which one's more likely. I mean, the GFS doesn't even... The GFS trough's nothing like the Euro's. The Euro has a much more well-defined trough here. Even though it's not a negative tilt trough, it's still a substantially better trough. Look at that moisture return. Look at the difference on that prime moisture. Euro, 60s all the way up into southeast Iowa. GFS, they're stuck way down here into south central Missouri. So, big difference. It looks like the new GFS uptrended significantly in moisture return. However, it fell apart with the trough, so yeah, too much uncertainty. If they highlight a 15%, I'd be pretty surprised. Because on one hand, you've got the GFS model, which has your trough way up here, and a tiny little shortwave right there that starts the severe threat. And then on the Euro, you've completely different. Your trough that was up here on the GFS, well, now the Euro's got it way down here. With the primary area for severe weather also being south as well. So the same region is under the gun for potential severe weather, but the magnitude is a huge question mark. Yeah, look at that. Just so much uncertainty. You've got like 3 ensembles that go full on out with a good tornado threat, and then some don't even have a trough present. So as of right now, at this very second, I'm not very interested in this setup for severe weather, but tomorrow things may uptrend, and we may even see the SPC highlight a day. What would this be? Oh, heck no, it ain't highlighting no day 8 risk. For this? Heck no. Or that'd be day 7. No. That'd be crazy if we wake up to day 7 or 8, 15% with this type of uncertainty. So, yeah. Tonight, just could see a brief tornado in this area here. Quick spin-up tornado in this area tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to be seeing a more widespread threat for severe weather in the overnight hours. We're going to see a large line of damaging winds form over a good chunk of this area. The main region will end up being southeast Arkansas, northeastern Missouri, central Mississippi. 60-mile-an-hour winds, isolated winds up to 70 will be possible. Also could see a conditional strong tornado threat in generally this area here and generally this area in here. Generally those areas, we may have the chance for a strong tornado threat. Once we get a little bit closer, and once we get into tomorrow, I should say. So tomorrow we'll be able to really figure out if we're going to see that conditional strong tornado threat or if it's just not going to be even present. So we'll keep an eye on that, see which way our models trend, and then which way our surface observations go for the morning hours tomorrow. After that, we'll see a high pressure build in the western U.S. That will get a good ridging pattern setting up here. We'll see this huge divot in the eastern U.S. Going into Monday, that should just bring a large area of disturbed weather. Just very large regions could see isolated light to moderate rainfall, some snow in the northeastern U.S. Going on into Wednesday, that ridge will make itself more crooked. You see here, now we've got more of a crooked ridge here, very weak high pressure now setting up in this area as another trough starts to dig down into the eastern Pacific. That trough really doesn't do much. It tries to pick up some flow, some strength as it traverses the Rockies, but it just ultimately fails. I think that's going to be capped off. Could end up with a isolated thunderstorm or two Friday. Nothing very notable, though. And then as we go into Saturday, that's where uncertainty is very high. And either Saturday or Sunday, we're going to end up with a chance for a severe threat somewhere in the south central plains. A very conditional strong tornado threat, Maury. Very conditional strong tornado threat if we can get a semi-discrete storm to fire in either one of those areas I've pointed out recently. Then as we go on into Tuesday, and by recently I mean out in south central Kentucky, portions of Tennessee, western Mississippi, But anyways, going into Monday, Tuesday, next week now, you'll see a much less favorable for significant severe weather pattern sets up here. Probably going to be extremely inactive. We may have some few isolated slight risks that may sneak in between tomorrow and the rest of March, but not really seeing any notable threat for severe weather anymore on the model runs. They really trended away from that very quickly. So, like I said, could see around a slight risk caliber setup for Saturday or Sunday next week. And then we just get that crazy ridge pattern that is dominant over the U.S. and maybe even at one point, possibly an omega block could set up here. Doesn't really look like it on this particular model run. But we could have an omega block that tries to set up. I'm not even sure where any severe threats may be here. Let's look at our supercell composite. Yeah, I'm just not seeing much of anything. Just that low wind threat on Saturday or Sunday. Not really much of a tornado threat unless we see that trough pull more south. Monday, very low wind threat. Really just not much of a good signal. Well, something happens here. Let's look at our ensemble. Yeah, so you can see just very broad areas of supercell composite. Saturday does have some better certainty. However, much of that environment is going to be capped out. Much of it's going to be capped out. We'll see. Just very, very broad regions of supercell composite. No pinpoint area. And either way, we don't have any good troughs. So the chance for a notable strong tornado threat or outbreak caliber setup is extremely low for the next, probably at least the next week, maybe even 2. I just don't see much there. Lord have mercy. Oh, look at that. The Canadian model run's laughable. Jeez. Oh, man. I wonder where we saw this setup. I haven't seen this one before. Totally not 1 week ago. Gracious day. That's insane. Oh, much better dew points, too. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Don't worry, y'all. Don't get worked up about that. Literally last model run, it was gone. You see that this is yesterday's run, gone. Today's run just throws a bowling ball trough there. So it literally just got on the model run. Sometimes you just gotta laugh at the Canadian, man. Kind of like the GFS 360 hours out. Well, the Canadian is like that no matter what hour out you are. You just gotta laugh at it. Because you know it's wrong. I do think Saturday could actually have a bit of a better chance for severe weather. But I would love to see which way the model runs trend. Because right now the GFS is kind of feeling like an outlier. See, even the ensembles have it more south. See that? So I almost feel like the GFS is an outlier here. Even the CFS has a trough there. So I don't think we'll see anything even remotely close to as potent as what the Canadian shows. That shows a full-fledged tornado outbreak. And I don't think we'll see something as small as the GFS. I think we're gonna eventually find a middle ground to where we are looking at a good threat for severe weather on Saturday, March 29th. But I do not think it will be as ridiculous as what the Canadian is showing. Nor do I think we'll be seeing something like that anytime soon. Man, does the Canadian just love to throw this stuff out? Like, look at that. What is this model run doing? And look, it's just completely gone on the next one. I mean, just crazy. Crazy inconsistencies on the Canadian. Huh, interesting. Definitely some ensembles. Those definitely are raising a bit more of a flag here than the deterministics. A lot of them have a far northern warm sector. We actually could get a good threat. Look at them. Almost all of them are north. And significantly higher. That raises a much larger concern there. Look at ensemble 15, though. Look at this one. My cursor is right here. The one to the right of that. Ensemble 15. That's insane. So, I'll just go ahead and give you a good old broad area here. If you are watching from anywhere in this area, right in here, keep an eye on the threat for severe weather on March 29th. Anywhere in this region. How notable will it be? I have no idea. Just go and keep an eye on it, because that's a big warm sector. So if your trough can uptrend on the GFS, it could definitely be a bit of a surprise threat. Now that I look at this closer, has the GFS always been very consistent on this? I don't want this. I want this and this. Yeah, I definitely feel like the GFS is an outlier here. Look at this. It puts winds everywhere. So we'll keep a very close eye on that there. I'm not so sure we're going to go into this ridiculous inactive threat like the GFS is saying. Because the GFS has that very dominant high pressure. I do think we'll see a high pressure dominate the south central and southwestern U.S. at some point at the end of March or beginning of April, but I don't think it will be this absurd and this strong. So just again, if you're in that area, Saturday, March 29th, just keep an eye on Saturday. Nothing to get worried about by any means or panic about. Models are all over the place. By a milestone, they are absolutely all over the place. So we'll just keep an eye on it. Just watch that area. I want to go check the Climate Prediction Center. They have a risk for heavy rain down here on the 29th. That's for the first system, this little system here. But I don't think that will be any solid severe weather maker. Just a lot of uncertainty here. I don't trust the GFS that much. Yeah, and the CPC has already put out a very large area for a slight risk of high winds, which is typically denoted by strong trough ejections. So they're not fully buying on into that GFS scenario just yet. So don't let that sneak up on you. We might actually end up with a good threat for severe weather. Possibly multiple. One Friday in the far southern U.S. and then maybe a quite notable one on Saturday. And then, of course, we have to get through our threat tonight, which is very minimal, and then our threat tomorrow as well. So, no very obvious big threats for severe weather on the GFS, but once you start breaking it down more and looking at more of your ensembles and your Euro and Canadian, the GFS definitely seems like a bit more of an outlier. So you can see here, this is on your ensembles. There's most likely going to be a high pressure in that area. See, the Euro has it a little east. Canadian doesn't have it, which is interesting. But your GFS ensembles, most of them have that high pressure somewhere in the far southern US or in the extreme eastern Pacific Ocean. So very uncertain weather pattern coming up here, especially next week, specifically around the weekend time frame. Friday, Saturday, both look like possible severe weather days, but a lot of uncertainty. First, we got to get through this trough right here, which is tomorrow into Monday, and then it will slowly start to be exiting the US and maybe going into Canada Tuesday into Wednesday. So hopefully we can get some better model runs Tuesday, Wednesday to figure out if this is going to end up being a good threat for severe weather a week from today, March 29th. Like I said, please don't be worried about it. It's just keep an eye on it. You just want to keep an eye on it. See if it uptrends at all. Obviously, I'll let you guys know. If things start to really uptrend, we'll start live streaming more frequently to update you daily or whenever it's needed. Tomorrow, in terms of live streaming, I'm really not too sure. I know for sure I won't be live anytime before 6 p.m. So if I do stream tomorrow, it would be at or after 6 p.m. Eastern. You can see here, tomorrow, this is 9 p.m. Eastern. Could see, like I mentioned, very conditional strong tornado threat. If we could see a semi-discrete storm pop up in a slightly favorable environment, or a conditional strong tornado threat up here. It's on the far bottom right of your screen. If we can see any semi-discrete storms pop up out in front of our messy line. However, I wouldn't be shocked if neither one of those scenarios happen. So I'm not very confident in a strong tornado threat. I think our primary threat tomorrow will be around that 11 p.m. Eastern time frame with embedded supercells inside of a little line out here in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas. Like I said, 60, 70 mile per hour winds there being possible. It's more of going to just be a widespread wind bag. See, just really a very large, widespread wind bag of 40 to 60 mile an hour winds with isolated winds, especially in this area here, upwards of 70 miles per hour. And then we could get some large hail or a tornado or two, as well as potentially a conditional strong tornado threat if we can see discrete storms fire in this environment out in this area. Which right now the HRRR has about 1 or 2 storms firing there. You see the HRRR has a little cluster there tomorrow at 7 o'clock. That could produce a tornado or two, depending on if it's very clustered or if it's more of an embedded supercell inside of other rain showers. And the ingredients aren't terrible. They're not terrible for instability. Instability is going to be carrying it big time. The only thing that's really horrible is well, your wind shear is not horrific, especially in Mississippi or in that conditional threat in Tennessee. You can see it's not terrible. If we go to that peak time frame about 9, 10 o'clock, see you have much better wind shear with that conditional prefrontal threat here, as well as back out in Mississippi. So, not terrible. Not a high-end setup, and not a very low-end setup either. That's why they issued that 5% tornado risk over northeastern Louisiana, west central Mississippi earlier today for tomorrow's threat. PM, 10, 11 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern time. So 9, 10 p.m. Central time for you out there in Tennessee. But storms will have to be discrete. If they are not discrete, you're not going to see much of a tornado threat at all. For instance, what the NAM 3K has, it just has an utter mess. It just has a mess of very isolated damaging winds and still a possible spin-up tornado or two, but really just a big mess across much of the region. And then you can see that area of heightened damaging wind potential up to 70 miles per hour out here. Still on the NAM 3K as well. So I do believe we'll have a solid chance to see a tornado or two tomorrow. And if we can see any discrete storms, prefrontals, or strongly matured supercells embedded in the line, we may have a conditional strong tornado threat. Like I said, we're going to have to get pretty unlucky to see a strong tornado tomorrow. You're either going to have the perfect prefrontal or the perfect cell merge in order to get an embedded supercell going inside the line. Which, if we look at the SPC outlook once again, that is why we just have a huge 2%. And they originally did not have that 5%. So originally it was just a very large 2%. And that's what they have still. But they have included that 5% chance just in case we see any prefrontals. So we'll see how model runs look like in the morning for this threat. I hope to go live sometime tomorrow evening, probably at or sometime after 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm not going to promise I'll be live, but hopefully I will. We'll try. See what happens. And then, like I said before, just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the model runs here. Keep an eye on Saturday, specifically March 29th. Generally, I'm not going to be able to circle the same area I circled before, but generally in this vicinity. Generally, most of the central plains and dead center Tornado Alley area. Again, you can see the Canadian model run just crazy. I extremely highly doubt that's going to happen. Very much doubt that. The reason why the Canadian is so aggressive here is because it has no high pressure, and also the trough that the GFS, look at where the model runs are very different. So the GFS has your trough up here Friday morning. The Euro, gracious, the Euro has your main trough down here with that short wave going like this. And then the Canadian model run has it close to the Euro, but significantly more organized. So you can see how the Euro is a much more broad area of weak flow, whereas the Canadian is a more concentrated area of amplified flow. And then the GFS is just amplified flow considerably more north. So a lot of uncertainties on what's going to happen next week over the central U.S. and with that trough ejection. So we'll just pay attention to it. And obviously, whatever threat happens, I'll update you guys with. I'll try to keep you guys updated. I know for a fact I'm going to start getting busy towards Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've got the Martinsville race coming up on Sunday, March 30th, so I'll be at the track there. And as you can see, not too happy with the GFS solution here. Rain right over Martinsville, so hopefully that's not right. Canadian looks to hold it off a little bit, but not really much. So who knows? Maybe I'll get a rain delay and I'll just end up live streaming or something. We'll see. So I'll just keep you guys updated in the community post on when I'll be live next. I'll just try to remember to schedule that live stream for tomorrow. Again, I'm not going to promise I'll be live. If I'm not live tomorrow, I will update you on community posts on when I will be live. So if I do not stream sometime tomorrow evening at or after 6 p.m. Eastern, I'll do a community post letting y'all know when I'll be streaming next. But yeah, let me just go ahead and show you one last thing, and then we're going to start wrapping it up. I want to show you this. This is a really good way to figure out if we going to see severe weather. There's your ensembles. Dang, that is so zoomed out. So that's your GEFS ensembles on a graph. You can see here's today's threat on the 22nd. Pretty much nothing. Tomorrow we get a little bit more elevated for the opportunity of a brief tornado or two. And then just sometime after the 28th, we'll have an opportunity for severe weather eventually. Eventually. You could see ensembles, some on the 29th, some on the 30th, some on the 31st, some on the 1st of April, some on the 2nd of April, some on the 3rd of April, some on the 4th of April. So they're everywhere. They don't know exactly which day, right? Just eventually. Just eventually. Gaming streams? I hope to do gaming streams soon. It's just difficult to find the time to do a gaming stream where I'm not just simply talking to Lucky, but we have that new game coming out. I won't mention it on this channel, but we do have a new game coming out, and me and Lucky are going to end up playing that together. So that will be sometime this year. We'll figure out exactly when, but I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know it's a bit of a shorter live stream, but that's what our briefings are. Just 1 hour quick live streams. I'll just say it's Subnautica 2 Legacy. Subnautica 2. It's fine. So we'll play Subnautica 2 whenever that comes out. If you don't know my gaming channel, it's TRG Gaming. You can easily find it on the homepage. Thank you, Mods for Mod Chat. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully, you guys have a fantastic rest of your Saturday night. I'll see you guys maybe tomorrow. Like I said, if I'm not live at or after 6 p.m. Eastern, I will just go ahead and tell you guys on community posts when I'll be live next. So again, have a fantastic rest of your Saturday night. And thank you, Mods, for Mod Chat. Catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye. Stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. Thank you, mods, for Mon Chat. I'll see you guys in my next live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.